Welcome in to Trust the Process Live. If you have not caught up with us by now, I suggest you go back and watch or listen to wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Anchor, anywhere.
Early and often.
Our series of trials, as we have been presiding over trials of our Philadelphia sports teams. And we've done 3 out of 4, and we saved the best for last because it lined up calendar-wise with training camp and the start of preseason football coming up on us pretty quickly. So, boys, that being said, today is going to be our trial of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I am your judge, Honorable James Hyden, presiding over these trials. Here with my guys, Doc Lock, Josh Safran. What's up?
Oh, look, who cares what's up, man? Things are good. We're in the dog days. I want to talk with the Eagles. I've been chomping at the bit to talk about the Eagles, so I'm real good. How are you, Banners? You're always asking how we're doing. No one asked Banners how he's doing. How are you doing?
Well, I get to have people.
All the time.
I get to have people refer to me as Your Honor for an episode, so I feel like I'm doing all right. I feel like I'm doing all right. YG, young gentleman. That's what the Y and the G stand for. James Jackson, how are you?
I'm good. And I just want to remind y'all, as the only person here who's objective about the Eagles, Banners, I guess you're objective too. You don't let the Philly bias sway you. But as the only person here who's objective about the Eagles, I want to remind young Josh and one Max over there that I am merely here to provide realistic point of views today. Whether you disagree with them or not, they're just realistic point of views. I'm sorry, I cannot be held, deemed a hater for my views. I'm just gonna have to bring y'all back down to earth today. I can tell.
We're here. We're the two people to make sure we're not an echo chamber. We're not here to echo any sentiments. We're here to ground. Okay, and the man of digits, the many digits. I don't know how many he got anymore. He could have added. He could have subtracted. I don't know. Max Coolish, how are you?
I'm great. I'm feeling good. Just been living the life in Philadelphia, man. It's just been I've been a real homebody the last couple of weeks. I guess rightfully so, but just kind of settling into my area. I've been not doing much. Like I'm kind of ready. I'm kind of where Josh is. Like I'm ready to talk football, talk sports. Like this is the most exciting thing I've been doing recently. So let's get into it.
I love it. With that being said, gentlemen, we are going to move into opening statements, opening remarks. And what we're going to do is we're going to go around the horn. And Doc Lock, I'm going to give it to you first. Your opening statement, you may address the jury of your peers.
Oh, man. People of the jury, ladies and gentlemen of Philadelphia, it is finally that time. We love our Phillies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 76ers, and, our fly guys. That was the first or second episode. But nothing comes close to our Philadelphia Eagles, which last year, everyone brush it off. Everyone just brush it off. Shake it out. Get it out of the system. It's over. The past is the past. And this is a new season. Doug Peterson should still be here. I still believe that, and I will die on that hill.
He started so well.
Yeah. Okay.
But I am ready. I am ready for the new regime. We needed a change here in Philadelphia. I don't have to talk about Doug. I don't have to talk about Carson Wentz anymore. I will intentionally because it's funny now. But I don't have to talk about Carson Wentz on my team anymore. Do I think they're winning the Super Bowl? I'll save you the suspense. No. What if I said yes now? You guys are waiting for me to say yes. But I'm happy. I'm optimistic. I feel like there's a monkey off my back with Doug and Carson gone. And I think everyone should too. Whether you think they're going to do well, whether you think they're going to do bad, you should be excited, okay? And that is, I'll leave it there, and we'll get more into it there. But hey, be hopeful, be excited. Take your wins there.
All right. Okay.
I kind of want to cross-examine.
Yeah. Let's have your opening statement first, and we can go back to cross-examination.
Okay. You're lucky, Josh. You're lucky. My opening statement is, Eagles fans, remember that you are in year 1 of a rebuild. You let your head coach go. You let your starting quarterback go, the once face of your franchise, and a lot of things on your team look new. New quarterback, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new secondary, a new identity for the Philadelphia Eagles. But it is the first year of a rebuild. And what you should expect is to see progress. Progress from where you were last year, and as Josh said a little bit, progress to what could be into the future. But it is not a right now thing. So taper your expectations are really my opening statements for this season. Is you can't expect your essentially rookie QB, but second year QB, first year starter QB to go out there and light the world on fire. You can't expect your really young wideouts and running back to go and dominate their positions on a week-to-week basis. You can't expect your first-year head coach and coordinators to have everything figured out, both scheme and personnel-wise, right off the bat. It is a figure-it-out season, put the pieces where they need to be, and start building a foundation for going forward. Nothing is solidified right now. If you're the Eagles, if you're Eagles fans, and I think everybody should remember that. To be honest, 6-7 wins should put a smile on everybody's face. This ship is afloat. It's got a direction. We didn't implode. But to expect 8-9 double digit and to win the NFC East is once again putting a bar of expectations on the team that's not realistic. And that's only going to hurt yourselves. I'm only here for the realistic truth. Remember, it's year one of a rebuild. Close my opening statement.
Max Coolish, you are now free to address the jury.
I would say my opening statement is that above all, we need to be evaluating coaching this season. I think Doug Peterson, if this was a video game, I think Doug Peterson would have deserved to keep his job because that's how you can remove all of the interpersonal operations and how people interact with each other. Because I think that's where things more so fell apart in his departure. But I say that I think we need to emphasize and not solely focus, but prioritize focusing on what we see from the coaching was because as much as I will always cherish Doug Peterson for his time here, there wasn't always a ton of good coaching going on in the Philadelphia NovaCare complex in the last couple of years. It seemed like a lot of guys did not progress out of the draft or coming here through free agency. We see flashes from players. There was a lot of consistency issues post Super Bowl, and I think that's really where we should be evaluating because that's where the last regime failed. Everything before the Super Bowl is gravy. It got us the Super Bowl, but the regime fell apart in what happened after that time. And to me, that regime focused far too much on what was established and what was known and not willing to press boundaries or challenge the norm or make guys feel like they had to worry about something. I think we can agree there was a lot of favoritism played in the last couple of years. And I'm very curious to see how a new coaching staff can develop young guys, which is something that hasn't happened here in quite a while. And on top of that, can they put together schemes and packages for a veteran defense that underperformed last year and can, with some additions in the secondary that are not perfect, they have some weaknesses at linebacker still for sure. If that secondary is improved, I think the Eagles defense can keep them feisty. I'm not going to say keep them competitive. It's a 2.5 sided game. I think the Eagles defense can do enough to keep them feisty with the right people behind them. But the issue is after flipping everything upside down and restarting from scratch, are those right people in place or, vice versa?
That is the question.
I know you, Digits. I know you. And there's a lot of surface level talk right there. Not a lot of specifics. Like what are you specifically expecting this season from the Eagles? Because I'm hearing a lot of let's see if the coaches can develop young talent.
I'm expecting a wide range because if I'm being honest here, I think this defense has legitimate potential to be good enough to steal you games, right? And I think that this coaching could leave us at 3.
What does that come down
I'm
to?
getting to that. I'm saying that this coaching, if we have coaching jobs like last year where it's uninspired, we have no creativity in offensive and defensive play calling, the Eagles will win 3 or 4 games at most, and they'll be lucky to do so. If with this influx of 25 to 45-year-old coaching talent, if some of these guys can bring in these new fresh ideas that it seems every third team in the league has, some offensive guru under 35 calling plays and calling shots, if they get a little bit of injection from that, I can see the Eagles being feisty enough to sniff 6 to 8 wins. If I'm putting it all on the table, I think you're probably closest with saying 5 to 6, JJ, and I think that's where it'll ultimately fall. But I think this team has a pretty wide range of variety because it's not like they're so talent deficient like the Jets, for example. Like, I understand that they certainly have a lot of weak spots, especially offensively, but they have some big names. They have a marquee offensive line. They have a running back who, has produced when given opportunities, right? Obviously, there's big questions at receiver. There's big questions at quarterback. But I think that a defense that can hold an opposing team to less than 24 points a game, which I think this defense could do, I think you can win a handful of games.
I'm interested to hear where you guys think and when it's all said and done, I get that it's early, but I'm interested to hear where you guys think the Eagles land in the NFC East. Like, who do you think where do you think you stack up?
I mean, everybody's, for all I know, everyone could literally finish 8 and 9, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like, this whole division reeks of mediocrity still, and I mean, it's going to be hard to duplicate the stink job that the whole division put on last year, but is it really so far-fetched to think that none of these teams really are head and shoulders better than the others? Like, I was willing to say that, the Cowboys are the most talented. We know how that goes for the Cowboys every year. The Washington football team just did it last year. I mean, you want to talk about some offseason problems. Their own coach is already going. Yeah. Their own coach is already going at them. So, the Giants are – it feels like the Giants are almost in the same spot as the Eagles in terms of where their offensive and defensive personnel kind of are strongest and weakest. And I don't know. I could say fourth and say be confident in that, and I could say the Eagles can sneak out a division win and be not as confident, but I could say that with my chest. But I don't know. I think that any team that finishes with 9 wins is probably the favorite to win the division, and that's kind of sad to say, but I
believe they will win the division, and I'm not saying that with 100% confidence. But you posed the question. I wanted to stop the suspense right now. If you're, gun to my head here, how do you think the Eagles will finish 1 through 4? I'm going to say number 1. And we can get into that, right? But I do think a big part of that is looking around at the rest of the division where you see the Washington football team with 17 games with Mr. Fitzmagic. The Fitzmagic only lasts for 5 games, and there's a whole season of that. Not seeing it happening. The Cowboys are basically the same team they've been with a worse offensive line, a secondary that hasn't been improved, and Zeke is literally not getting any better. And Max just said it. The Giants are the Giants. They really don't have anything going on for them. So, listen, maybe I'm falling into a trap of thinking of the NFC East is going to be a carbon copy of what it was last year, but has there been anything that should lead me to think otherwise? Has there really been anything to make me think the NFC East has improved marginally?
Yes, if that's really the stance you would like to take, I would like to submit that the people would also like to understand why you are not holding that same view for your team.
Thank you. It's very simple. Why is there a negative for everybody else but your team?
Well, it's really simple because the team last year got more or less blown up. When you take the starting quarterback and the head coach and they're gone, your entire team is changed drastically. And I fall under the impression that I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is winning an MVP, maybe even in his career, but I'm saying this year's Jalen Hurts.
Bold statement.
This year's Jalen Hurts is without a doubt an upgrade from Carson Wentz last year.
How do you know?
How do you know? 4 games of a sample size.
Come on, guys.
You watched Carson Wentz last year. He was literally the worst quarterback I've ever seen.
The question marks are the point. The question marks are the entire point of all of this. You don't know. Like you have no idea what direction you're going to go with Jalen Hurts.
I'm saying I do know every team in the division, and I think I have good indication on the Eagles, and the other teams haven't really changed. The Eagles have changed an awful lot, and I've liked almost all of the moves they've made. So that's why I'm feeling so good about the Eagles. This isn't the Super Bowl year, but if you're saying, where do you think the Eagles are going to fall? I'm going to slap them at 1 right now.
How would that benefit? So I would like to understand how that would benefit them.
I'm dumbfounded.
Oh boy, how that would benefit them. You're telling me winning a division isn't beneficial to a franchise? How would that not benefit them? I don't understand that.
I mean, it's
What
the same,
what did a Washington Redskins division win last year benefit them?
Great experience for your young players and like a victory.
If you want a real explanation, I think that shows that they have a great young team minus a quarterback. They have great offensive weapons at wide receiver, running back. They have one of the best D lines in the league. Banners, I think I get where you're coming from because Josh is a little bit off the rails right now, but that's not the best bait to lure someone in because that's an amazing experience for that football team.
I don't know if we can count on playoff the old trope that playoff experience is so valuable for people. I'm not sure if we can really rest on those laurels. Concern or literally looking at the Super Bowl champions from last year, looking how many players on that team didn't have playoff experience. So I think we can just my question falls back on like outside of the quote unquote playoff experience. And I'm just trying to understand here because Josh, I think you're taking it a little bit too far. Like Max said, we're a little bit off the rails here, which I like. If you're going to do it, go full head of steam. But people would just like to understand how are the Washington Redskins as a football team? Let's not take the quote unquote intangible playoff experience.
Sure.
Let's take that out of it. How have they gotten better as a football team from winning the division?
Well, Banners, based on that logic, everyone who makes the playoffs other than the Super Bowl winner are suckers because they get worse draft picks. Like I don't understand.
No, the teams that make the playoffs with a clear plan and clear team that, hey, we're going to make a push, that benefits them. Teams that luck into a playoff win or luck into a playoff seeding based on pure circumstances, that's not a benefit. That pushes you back in the draft order and delays the final steps of a rebuilding process.
Yeah, but I totally understand what you're saying, but at the same time, you have a first-year quarterback, a first-year head coach, and overall like a really young core making the playoffs in their first year. I'll throw it right back. How does that not help you? Like,
it's because I wouldn't consider it making the playoffs. I would consider it stumbling ass backwards into the playoffs.
Well, that's
you're kind of shifting the goalposts with there.
Objection. I'm throwing an objection right there because you're making assumptions that we literally have no way of assuming until 17 weeks. In my blueprint, the Eagles are a 10, let's say 10-7, right? Is 10-7 in the NFC East lucking into the playoffs?
My problem is the 10-7 is more than lofty expectations. Like if 10-7 happens, everything happened exactly correctly and way ahead of schedule. But you cannot expect 10 wins from this Eagles team. You just can't.
Well, I'm expecting
everything else after that to me a moot point because you cannot expect 10 wins from this Eagles team.
We can dive into it, fellas. We can dive into some of the questions here because I feel like I just have to explain myself more as we go on. Like I am gung ho, fellas.
Like a 7-9 team going to the playoffs is stumbling. Like that's what the Redskins. I'm just trying to understand.
I think we were on two different wavelengths here. In your world, the Eagles are 8-9. And they win on a tiebreaker with everyone being crap. In my scenario, the Eagles make it into the playoffs and they are not ahead above the rest, but let's call it half ahead above the rest. They're definitely better than the rest of the division in my scenario here. Like I hear what you're saying. I just think they're gonna surprise. I think they're gonna surprise people. I think they're gonna surprise all of us.
I'll give you one thing. Head coaches that have been hired under Jeffrey Lurie average. I'm pretty sure they average 10 wins in their rookie season, which is like it's a pretty incredible stat. So going by those numbers, I can see where some of the optimism might come from. Like I said, the main point is finishing off the final steps of a rebuild and not getting ahead of yourself. Is where I would caution.
My counter would be, I mean, look, regardless of your record, you got 2 first-round draft picks now. I'm done saying 3. I said 3 for a long time, but you still have another one there for you. That's not, a playoff pick. So that would be my counter is even if you do make the playoffs and you're worried about that position, you have a second one right
That's
there.
a good point. That's a good point.
It's a good point. So I referenced it right there in the records with new head coaches. So now where the people is going to shift their argument, we're going to call Nick Sirianni to the stand for cross-examination.
Oh, man.
Ready.
There's some good numbers behind first-year head coaches for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's also been some, I won't call it good or bad, or even though I tend to like what I hear, there's been nothing but interesting news.
Yeah.
Coming from the NovaCare complex and Nick Sirianni's coaching staff. So we're going to go around. And Max, I want to start with you. Are you a believer in Nick Sirianni and him coming in from the Frank Reich coaching tree from Indianapolis to be this first-year head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles?
If you want my totally unfiltered answer, it's hell no. I'm honestly not a believer. Why should I be? Why should I be? This guy was an assistant offensive coordinator for an average offense for 1 year. What should give me the grounds to make such a large leap of faith that he can go to being top dog in a marquee market? Look, man, I want to be as wrong as I possibly can. I want Nick Sirianni to be as legendary as his name has already become just by the words and the syllables that it consists of. All right. I want dads from Delco to LBI to the Pine Barrens in South Jersey to be saying, Sirianni. I want to be saying it just like that. I want to be ringing through the streets for 20 years. Right? That's what I'm saying. I want it to be everywhere. I want every inch of Eagles Nation to be saying that guy's name with a crappy, rough Delco accent. Right? That's all I want in life. But realistically, what makes me think that he can get there? Like, what is giving me that confidence in him? What's giving me that assuredness that, yeah, this guy can do it? I mean, hell, I didn't believe in Doug Peterson when he got here, and for good reasons. He was basically in the same boat, but the difference was that the offenses that he were on at least would win a playoff game or something, or were ranked in the top 7 or 8 or whatever they were doing in those last couple of Alex Smith years before he left. The Colts did not play. They didn't play an offensive style of football last year. Philip Rivers had a couple banger games, which gives me like enough that's like what I'm holding on to. Like, there was a couple games down the stretch of the season where Philip Rivers kind of went crazy, and I do believe that the versatility that Jalen Hurts can give you with legs can offer you at least what Philip Rivers was able to offer the Colts last year. I'm not saying that he's as good as a player in terms of a career, but Philip Rivers was, as we saw, on his last legs last year. That was his last season. That was his last draw. He couldn't move an inch. He was as stone as they get. And I think that, kind of wrapping back to my coaching point, if Nick Sirianni and his guys can't figure out that having Jalen Hurts is a totally different ball game than having Philip Rivers as your QB, they'll win 3 to 4 games because they won't utilize his running skill set. And if they do realize that, hey, this guy was a top college quarterback, went to Alabama, went to Oklahoma, ran for over 1,000 yards, I believe, twice in college. This guy is a weapon with his legs. I'm not saying he's Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have to be. But if your coaching does not put them in a situation, which is what I'm ultimately getting back around to, if coaching doesn't put them in a situation, that's just a glaring flaw on the coaching staff. And as far as I'm concerned, the Colts' offense did not do enough to last year for me just to give this guy the benefit of the doubt and say, you know what, this dude is going to be able to take that jump, no question. I like I said, hope I'm wrong, praying for wrongness, happily will eat my words. Just I can't do it right now.
Now, before we let the prosecution cross-examine, I'm going to let the co-counsel for the people cross-examine this witness. And before Exhibit A, I would like to submit submit Exhibit A. Nick Sirianni has introduced wins and losses into training camp days, and his offense has not won a day. Now, this might just be grandstanding and him putting more pressure on the offense and saying, you know what? No, we haven't won a day yet. We need to go out there and really win a day. But the offense has not won a day. And there's that old adage of the defense always being ahead of the offense, which, granted, given the veterans on the defense, it might be. But does that? We're submitting that as evidence. So, co-counsel, your witness, Josh.
Yeah, that's you, John. I'm definitely not counsel.
Was I supposed to? Yeah, that's on me. That's
your witness.
That's a Don McNabb. That's on me, fellas. But oh man, Max, I liked how you broke it down, because I think you broke it down and like, all right, this is what I think about Nick Sirianni and the antics, and this is what I think about Nick Sirianni and the football, and I'm gonna go down that same road. When it's so hard for me to not call him Big Dick Nick. Like, I feel like if he does something, he's gonna get some nickname like that, but he's not worthy in that sense. But Nick, our guy Nick, hey Sirianni, I didn't like him. I didn't like him for the longest time. I mean, you can check the tape on it. When we first got here, I was bashing him for the press conference, for the rock, paper, scissors. And, it's just the more and more I hear him talk, the more I'm just buying in, because this is a guy who he's not going halfway. Like, he is just so all in on his whole shtick. We're going to attack rest, and then we're going to go watch some film, and we're going to attack this film session. And I think you're going to get the veterans in there specifically, and they're going to get in there, and they're going to roll their eyes at each other and have a nice chuckle. And then they're going to realize, like, wait, this isn't an act. Like, this is really just how the guy is all the time. And I'm not saying they're going to buy all the way into it, but I think they're going to – it's just a new culture, and that's certainly what they needed, right? You guys know I love Dougie P, but it's clear a new culture was needed. And then over to the football side of things, Max, I think I'm really going to like what Sirianni has to do here. And I think it's going to be a lot of running the ball. And that was the exact opposite we saw with Dougie P, and especially when Hurts came in, right? Like, he was having Hurts throw the ball 40 plus times a game. And if the Eagles are going to be the division winning Eagles, like I think they'll be, it's going to be a lot of establishing the run, slowing the game a little bit down, using a 3-headed monster that the Eagles, I think, will employ this year. And I am really excited about that. But and also the other thing that you guys know me, I'm the big Jalen Hurts guy.
Well, who's the 3-headed monster?
Mr. Kenneth Gainwell and Kerryon Johnson, along with Miles Sanders.
I forgot about Kerryon.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Kerryon. But
continue. My apologies.
No worries. I also think there's a lot to be said about having a new coach and a new quarterback, right? Like, obviously, Sirianni's been around the NFL a little longer than Hurts, but I think you have a sense of like, all right, buddy, we're in this together. There might be some growing pains, especially in training camp. You said it, Ben. His offense hasn't won one day. But I heard a lot of people's concerns about the defense going into training camp. So take that with what you will. All in all, I don't have all my chips in Sirianni. What I'm saying is, when he first got here, I was absolutely out. And he did it himself in the press conference. WIP been playing the soundbite. He just smacks the table and goes, "I'm doubling down," in his West New York accent. And that's how I feel about Sirianni. He's always doubling down on himself. I'm always going to take a guy who bets on himself. So yeah, Nick Sirianni, I'm a believer.
Okay. Prosecutor, you're a witness.
I'm not surprised that Josh fought off the gut reaction to not believe. He chooses to look at everything with rose-colored glasses, so that kind of didn't surprise me that he ended up on that side of the fence. Max, I would tell you, man, to trust your gut. Like you say, you want to be wrong, but I think you got something on the right on the nose there with not being a believer in Nick Sirianni. I like how you guys broke it down from antics and football, but I'm just going to stick to the football side, because you can have a great culture and kumbaya all you want. If you don't win games, the rest doesn't matter. So I'm going to stick just to the football side. And right, Max, the reason you should trust in your gut and not be a believer in Sirianni is, let's not forget the nature and why he was brought to this team. He was not brought to this team for Jalen Hurts. He was brought to this team as a last-ditch effort to try to get Carson Wentz to stay, and it did not work. And then now he goes from the focus being on fixing Carson Wentz and having that option to a completely different style of football that we all know Jalen Hurts plays in that offense, and now have to try to go to that. Yes, it can be we're in this together, buddy. But Sirianni and his staff was brought in here for Carson Wentz, not for Jalen Hurts. And then it all fell apart, and then Carson Wentz left, and now we're left with Jalen Hurts. I don't want to say we're left with Jalen Hurts like he wasn't drafted to be Carson Wentz's replacement. You kind of drafted him as a safety net for this reason. But Nick Sirianni was not coming in prepared to deal with Jalen Hurts. He was coming in prepared to deal with Carson Wentz. And that is the biggest project on the Eagles. The reason why it matters so much is because that's what is the most of most concern going into this rebuild is, can Jalen Hurts win us football games? Can Jalen Hurts be that quarterback to start our franchise around so we can start the other pieces? And as Banner says, the final steps of a rebuild. When that's your biggest project and your head coach was coming in prepared to coach another quarterback, that's just really concerning. And I think every Eagles fan should have major concerns about being a believer in Nick Sirianni. He can do it. Like he's still a offensive coordinator in the NFL. For all intents and purposes, he might be able to do it. But to be a believer, just off the strength of he was coming in here for a different guy, That's why I would not be a believer. Not even just hating, just I gotta see it first.
I like that. I do like that. I do like that stance. Yeah, I can't really say much, but I think like a fine rebuttal is it's not like my thing with Sirianni that I do like, and I think for others this may, they won't like him for this reason. This is his first head coaching job ever, right? It's like he almost doesn't even know what he doesn't like. If it was a veteran coach, I'd be a little bit more concerned where he came in here to be the Wentz whisperer or something like that. No. Nick Sirianni came in here to make a name for himself as an NFL head coach. So to me, it's like, look, this guy's got everything to lose. He may have come in here to fix Wentz, but if, you got to jump ship and pivot to Hurts, he's everything to lose. He's going to do everything he can. Let me read this Ethan Broseph comment real quick now. Even, what is that word? Stodgiest?
Stoogiest.
Even the stoogiest coaches have been able to implement radically different offenses in a one-year turnover.
I think that's stodgiest, by the way.
Flacco, Lamar, Tom Savage, Deshaun Watson. That's a great call out with Tom Savage to Deshaun Watson. And that's a good point. I mean, this
is also likening Jalen Hurts to Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson.
Well,
I think that's more of likening Sirianni to Harbaugh and who was the Texans coach? I guess that must have been Bob. Yeah,
Bob. But
I mean, hey, Bob was
it's
between
more of
the
a
lines.
Greg
Just don't
Roman.
let him up in the press boxes where he has to start thinking.
More of a Greg Roman comp. Greg Roman
everywhere.
was the one that kind of implemented for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Bob. Back to the dude.
B.O.B.'s an
Interesting.
idiot anywhere.
I like that. We got some optimism in the comments tonight.
Y'all can have your optimism, man. Just don't.
And
self-inflicted wounds. You guys are on the path to self-inflicted wounds.
Did Banners not claim Jalen Hurts to be the next coming of Lamar Jackson?
I did.
He did.
I did.
That's true.
I did. I haven't seen anything closer yet. Let's see.
Sure.
Greg Roman, who couldn't hack it with Kaepernick. I'm not sure what the point. I'm not sure why we bring up Kaepernick now when Greg Roman was the one to. Ethan, I think you need to. You're contradicting yourself there. I think we need to. Whatever. The witness may step down. We're going to call our next witness here, and it's going to be the position groups.
Oh,
the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we talked about a little bit why Nick Sirianni was brought in there for Carson Wentz. Ooh, I'm not even sure what to say about the quarterback room right now. So we're going to skip that, and we're going to go right into the other position groups. So now you may call. They're all in the gallery. You may call whichever position group you wish to the stand. We're going to go back around. Josh, you have your pick.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it with I think the last question, but I think the good is the running back room. I'll go as far as saying the whole running unit. If you want to look at a healthy, very good offensive line, especially on the run block, and then I am just so excited I'm calling it a three-headed monster. I really think you're going to get these guys rotating out an awful lot, whether it be for pass block, whether it be for a third down back. I don't know exactly how they're going to play it, but Miles Sanders, Kerryon Johnson there. I think Miles Sanders is really establishing himself as a top-tier running back in the league. Like, I think people just forget about Miles Sanders a lot. I haven't heard one person on the radio or I'm talking with
Stonehands. You can't be a top-tier running back in the current NFL if you can't catch.
Listen, I can't refute that, but in terms of the running game, I think that's the running game, and I really think with Sirianni, he's going to work on establishing the run, and then I can't. It's cheating to pull Hurts because he's in the quarterback room, but that helps my case here. I think running is your foundation, and from there, everything else is gravy. But I do think Kenneth Gainwell, AAC product, had a nice chance to watch him tear up against Temple. Now, granted, that was against Temple. He's legit, and he's real small. We said we had a Boston Scott Sproles comparisons, but listen, it's not the same. I'm not calling Kenneth Gainwell Sproles, but he's good. Like, he's going to play. He's not your average third or fourth round or fifth round pick even. The bad, it's the linebacker group, right? And it's surprising I'm not putting them at ugly. Bringing Wilson on, it helps. That's why they're not the ugly. It's still really shoddy. Like, you could have drafted anyone and they didn't. Sean Bradley, Temple product, we love him, but let's be real. Like, he should not be your starting linebacker. I think the linebackers are going to be a problem. And my ugly here, special teams. Because, special teams, I always think of special teams as like a try-hard answer. Like, oh, he's trying to be different. He's pulling out special teams. No. This special teams is ugly. Okay, the punter, some first-year punter. I don't know who he is. Like I just straight up don't know who he is. Jake Elliott was horrible last year. He was horrible last year, and by all accounts in training camp, he's looking even worse. And then you've got Nick Sirianni showing up wearing a Jake Elliott shirt to the press conferences, which is telling me they're not even considering cutting him and moving on. So, I don't think the Eagles are some high-powered offense. I think they're going to have to be kicking a lot, at least to start the year. And I think that's going to look terrible, and it can snowball on them, especially because they're scheduled to start the year. It's pretty tough. So a little bit of a try-hard answer, but it's really what I believe. Special teams is going to be ugly. And I think I love Jake Elliott for that kick, but I think you got to start looking at new kickers.
It is worth mentioning the coaching staff is pretty high on Davion Taylor, the forgotten son of last year's draft. Co-counsel, do you have a position group to add?
I was ready to go for all three.
Go for it.
Okay. I was going to say I'm going to go good, and this might be a little bit surprising, but the defensive backfield I think is a really, really nice combination of savvy veteran leadership, and you sprinkle some young guys in there. Like I could see someone like Avonte Maddox, provided staying healthy, like really being able to shine because he's not one of 4 cornerbacks who have no combined NFL experience. He's one of 4 cornerbacks who are, 25 years of NFL experience combined. I always thought that his issue was, I don't want to say, like low football IQ. I guess I'll just say it like that, right? Like that was always kind of what I thought his issue was. And having, Darius Slay and McLeod and, oh my God, I'm going to mix up their names if I say them. The guy we just signed from the Steelers and Anthony Harris from the Vikings. Willie, no, thank you. I kept wanting to say Anthony Nelson.
Steven Nelson, not Willie. Not Willie.
Willie Nelson would be awesome.
All year.
That would be awesome. That'd be a great signing.
Turn out the lights.
I was going to say for the linebackers, I mean, that does kind of feel just like the obvious answer. I'll say this, the bad is the bottom of the wide receiver depth chart because we're already thin, and it seems like that Quez Watkins isn't really having great, and I've heard that Hightower has regressed from last year, and that means JJAW is playing a lot, and we all know how that goes. So I'm going to say the bad is the bottom side of the wide receiver depth chart. I'm sure it'll be plenty fun seeing who the Eagles are running out there as their slot receiver in week 9 at this rate. And then lastly, for the ugly, I'm going to have to say the offensive line because, they're great on paper, but guess what?
Health as well.
What happened in the first hour of the first day of training camp? Brandon Brooks left the field with what was appeared to be an injury. He came back and all is gravy, but if that's not a consistent theme with the offensive line, I don't know what is at this point. I can't look at what happened last year and see, what was it, 9 or 10 or 11 different starting offensive line combinations in 16 games. Yep. And that's ugly. That's ugly to me. And I hope it's not the case. I hope that, especially the right sideline. I think that's the most important side. Any game where Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson play next to each other has always felt like the Eagles have an advantage, like a clear advantage somewhere on the field, regardless of how the receivers aren't getting separation or if, the quarterback isn't making the right reads. It always felt like if Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson were next to each other, you could get some push on the right side of your line and you could do something with it. And that was obviously missing in its entirety last year. And I think that, I think last year was a huge example of how important cohesion and chemistry on an offensive line. It seems like every team that wins the Super Bowl, JJ's Bucks are the latest case in point. The offensive line they are of one brain. As soon as 1/5 of that singular brain gets put on the injured list, I feel like this is almost a too juicy of an analogy to use, but it's like getting a concussion where the entirety of the brain, that's what I mean. It's very full circle, but it almost feels like, just messing up that one little part of it can shake up the equilibrium for the rest.
Let's not forget everything comes back to or boils down to can Jalen Hurts succeed or can Jalen Hurts help this team?
I'm ready to talk about Jalen Hurts. I assume we have a separate question for the quarterback stuff, given how much that we're shying away from it.
Just to aid your offensive line point, a revolving door of an offensive line is the last thing you need for a young developing quarterback. So this all boils down to can what we do help Jalen Hurts, and that's the ugly of that. It like just ripple effects to not helping your quarterback.
I'll touch on more on this later, but just kind of further building on that point, Jalen Hurts has been working with his offensive line. That's the guys who he's been working out with on a day-to-day basis. Him and Lane Johnson have been buddied up at Lane's private gym all summer. Like, that's been his go-to spot. He's done his stuff with the receivers, but in terms of his day-to-day weight training and how am I getting big enough to be an NFL player, that's with Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks and Nate Herbig, like those group of guys. Like, that's the ones who are over there. And to me, I think that I won't spill it all here, but I think that's important.
I think it's also worth mentioning that Jordan Mailata has apparently not won out a spot at left tackle already. So you've still got the Dillard pick in there. It's right to bring up those concerns. Prosecution, who would you like to call a position group to the stand?
I'm going to agree with Max on the good, and that's the defensive backfield, the secondary. And
really,
I'll point out just the upgrade on paper. Like, at least now you guys have the Eagles have players in that defensive backfield that can be relied upon, players who have experience in the NFL and good experience in the NFL. I do think the Steven Nelson pickup was a little overhyped when it happened, especially just on a 1-year deal. You're not even expecting him to be on the team for long term. But getting Anthony Harris, I think, is a good signing. It's going to help your backfield. And now you have Darius Slay in a comfortable position where he's not the only performer in that defensive backfield with, like Max said, a bunch of guys without NFL experience. So I do think the upgrade in that is the good in itself. The bad is going. I'm going to point out a place that not a lot of people are going to see right away. And I'm going to say that's the tight end room. And that's one, because we talked about it before. I do not think Zach Ertz is going to play for the Philadelphia Eagles this year. Everyone thought because he wasn't moved yet that maybe it could happen. And then you can just see this man's demeanor at training camp. It just doesn't look like – it looks like the relationship has soured. He's on his way out the door, and he's just there not to get hurt but also not to get fined because he knows he wants to go to another team. So maybe that. But then when you fall back on Dallas Goedert, look, I haven't always been the biggest believer in Dallas Goedert and being a premier tight end in the league. And
he already failed his conditioning test,
and he's already proven to not be the most durable player. And after that, you want to talk about depth. I'm not even sure who's the third tight end on the Eagles depth chart.
Oh, man, you don't believe in Richard Rodgers?
The
returning tight end 3, Richard Rodgers. It's all about chemistry.
It's all about chemistry. But I'm going to call that as my bad. And the ugly, I'm going to go with the linebacking core right now. I mean, for all the reasons, all the painful reasons that you guys know, that's just the sure lacking right now on the Eagles team. So not even that much to get into that with the linebacking core. We already know the lack of what it is there.
All I'm going to say about that, taking my optimistic point, it's better than they started the season last year. Their linebacker core, I don't think you can disagree with that, which is crazy.
Yeah,
I'm surprised nobody called the defensive line to the stand for the good.
I don't know. I think the jury's still out on that one.
Well, I mean, if we're going to take the approach of like, hey,
I got it.
Like, if we're going to say the defensive backfield is improved on paper, I think we should also acknowledge that, the defensive line, if healthy, is probably a top 5 unit in the league just due to depth and being able to rotate so many guys and keep everybody fresh.
Well, Banners, on that note, I guess, like, as an Eagles fan, like last year is like the first year I think you've seen like Fletch and a little bit of BG come a little more down to earth. You know what I mean? Like, they
were still a top 4 pressure rate unit in the league.
Without a doubt. I just think the contrast of like, this is the best I've felt as a fan about the secondary in a little while. Like, it's always just –
it's finally dependable. I'll give that to you all. The secondary is finally dependable.
I'm not trying to say put them on a top 10 list. I'm just saying, like, year after year, I think the Eagles secondary is dog water. And this year I'm like, okay, they're fine. This year is the first year I've kind of looked at like, every year I look at the D-line and I'm like, best in the league. This is the first year where I'm like, okay, I saw a couple of guys take some steps back. Like, Barnett is still a bust. Like you're right. I think
we're finally ready. I got so much heat for saying
after 2 years.
I've been on that wave.
Barnett.
I got so much heat for calling him a bust.
I've been on that wave.
They've improved at the same rate, as in not at all.
Interesting. I would like to. I would say you're going to see a lot of cover 2 with Harris and McLeod there. You don't really have a true strong safety. You got two center fielders right there. So there's going to be a lot of out routes. So you guys, I think you're gonna see a lot of out routes. So hopefully, Slay and Nelson can keep up. I think Max, you're right. Maddox should never have ever played the outside cornerback position in the NFL. So I think that's reason for optimism.
It's not even that he couldn't. It's just like he, in the situation where he was been asked to perform the most, it's like he's being asked basically to step up and be like a leader among the defensive backs in terms of his on-field performance, and he just wasn't there. Like maybe he is better suited to be a slot corner, but like when we needed him the most, we needed him at outside corner. And he just doesn't really seem smart enough.
I don't think you can ask somebody to be a leader on the field by their performance and put them in a situation that will be detrimental to their performance.
It's the right thing to do. I'm just
it's him or like Jaquette. You know what I mean? It's like I agree, but it's like
Jaquette is.
Yeah, the problem with the secondary is if literally one guy gets hurt, I'm smacking the panic button. Like that's the main problem.
But tell me what position that happens at with the Eagles that you're not doing that.
Defensive line.
Yeah, defensive line. Because they do.
That might be your only security, but many others, especially the specialty positions, one person gets hurt, you're pretty much smacking the panic button everywhere.
Yeah, maybe safety as well, I guess, because Kayvon Wallace could at least play replacement level for somebody.
But you could say, that's him at linebacker and safety because he's not great at either.
He plays more of that strong safety role though. Yeah. That Gannon's defense would probably benefit from. So I guess those are two. Yeah, that's a good point, JJ. I think those are the two that you really think about. All right, boys. Our next question and our next witness. You can call either of these two players. And Max, this is the question you were looking for, buddy. We're going to talk about some quarterbacks. We're going to play a little game of Would You Rather. I'm going to let you guys pick who you're calling to the stand between Jalen Hurts or Deshaun Watson. And would you rather have Jalen Hurts in these picks?
This is ridiculous.
Or Deshaun Watson?
Dan, I think you might be getting a job at a fractional number radio station soon. Based on this one, buddy. This is a real doozy. I would just say this, that not only would it be a terrible PR move, it would just be downright stupid to trade Jalen Hurts and the next 5 years of your franchise for a guy with 20 plus pending investigations against him, regardless of position. The fact that he's a superstar quarterback is the only reason that this question has ever made it onto a piece of print, a piece of URL coding, somebody's mouth on the radio. It's probably the only thing the Eagles could do to make me truly just drop them as a fan, because it would just be so stupid logistically. Like,
Max, I think you need to be saying it louder, man, because there's a lot of people who don't feel that way.
I think you need to say that to Howie, because
I just want to clarify, this would be a brain dead trade to make, even if he didn't have the sexual assault allegations going against him, because the Eagles are not just a superstar QB away from being a team good enough to justify burning the next 5 years.
It doesn't push the needle forward enough.
I probably wouldn't pull the whole "I'll never be a fan again" thing if they did that. Like, I'd try to be as optimistic as I could. If in a different universe where there's not 20 plus assault allegations against him. I think that straight up, and it sucks because it feels like all roads lead back to this, either going all the way the distance, which is like a 10% chance, or nothing comes of this at all because it's the NFL and he's a famous athlete. And I think it's much more likely to be the latter. And even still, I can't in good conscience say that that's worth it on any front that it would touch.
Well, I like that answer. So let me kind of pivot this. And I think this question is better phrased as, what do you make of the rumored, like there's a lot of interest here from the Eagles front office. So what are we as sports fans to make of that? Because I think, Max, you articulated that very well as someone who has as many allegations against him as he does. So what are we to make of this?
Well, I'll put this very concisely, because Max, you did lay it out beautifully. From a football standpoint, you're right. It doesn't move the needle enough for the Eagles to warrant, giving away the future, those key building pieces for that rebuild. That's these next 2 first-round picks and beyond is to put either the pieces around Jalen Hurts or to find the guy to put the pieces around to start this rebuild. And to burn those to get Deshaun Watson doesn't make you a Super Bowl team right now, so it just hurts the process. It just hurts the rebuild in the process. But that's assuming we could put the allegations aside and just focus on football. And the reality is we can't and we shouldn't just put the allegations aside and just focus on football. Like, it shouldn't be painted as a hypothetical. It shouldn't be us saying, okay, well, let's imagine he doesn't have no. Because the reality is he does. And that's an insult to the victims that went through, what he's going through. It's not respecting the investigation that's currently going on against Deshaun Watson to ignore that. So we can and we shouldn't. And a bad PR move would be an understatement for it. I think this would do right now. I think there's a reason that Deshaun Watson isn't getting moved right now. And, I would be shocked to see a team actually pull the trigger.
Yeah, the fact that he's not on some kind of exempt list, even with these allegations just being allegations at this point, is rather
unusual.
Shocking. It's rather shocking because people have been put on exempt lists, not just the commissioner's exempt list. They've been put on them for less. So I'm not sure what to make of it. Like there's coming from all sorts of sources that there is a lot of interest here. Josh, do you have a take on this?
No, I mean, to be honest, like I expected you guys to be like, if you can trade for regardless, not, you just said don't put them aside, but I expected you guys to be like, in a football vacuum and to go into Max's video game world. I thought you guys were gonna be like, of course you trade for Watson. I was gonna sit here and be like, it's Jalen Hurts.
Can't ignore something like this.
No.
I'll go into a football vacuum for a lot of things, but not.
Football vacuums for how you operate with people inside your football confines.
Yeah. I think a football vacuum is if somebody was getting divorced or something. Like it's not something like that. Not something like this that can take you out of the league before you even make a trade. Unfortunately, both witnesses may step down. Now we're gonna put the entirety of the Eagles on the stand here, and I'm gonna ask you guys to. I don't want to say sentence them, but give me a pre-trial sentence here and sentence their odds for a 5-year championship window. Okay, Josh, let's start with you with Doc Locke.
No, he's the wrong person to go to first.
No, that's what I wanted to start with.
No. I mean, look, you're not getting a Sixers answer. That's for damn sure regarding this. But I do think there are two things to note before. And one of them is that, I referenced on our Flyers episode how wide open the NHL is. But I do think if you look at the NFL, it's not wide open, but it's pretty open. I think you can make a case for all 32 NFL teams. There's a path for them to win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years.
I would say I would say that applies to the NFC. And the NFL.
Josh, great job dragging us along.
Those last 3 to 4 words were so crucial to that statement. Oh man,
that's wild.
Oh man.
So on that note, as the optimistic Eagles fan, I want to set the odds at around plus 400 to plus 500 that the Eagles win a Super Bowl within 5 years, and I will tell you why. First and foremost, the Heisman-winning wide receiver and the Heisman-winning quarterback combo from the same university we have here that are going to be glued together from basically day one in their NFL careers until this end of this 5 years, if everything goes well. I personally am a believer in Jalen Hurts, which is where this all comes down to. I don't know how Max feels, honestly, but like if he really looks deep into the mirror. I know JJ and Banners don't believe in Jalen Hurts. So I'm in my world here. You have a Jalen Hurts progression in talent year after year with a quarterback and a wide receiver, a star wide receiver he's going to be paired up with. You have assets for the first time, I feel like, in my lifetime in the draft with the Eagles. It might literally be my whole lifetime. And you have a nice mix of veteran players and young players with talent at important positions, such as running back and wide receiver and quarterback. I think plus 400, the plus 500 range is pretty darn realistic, all of those things considered I really don't have much more to say than that, because a lot of the NFL is, you saw in 2017, you have a core of stars or a core of young players that you keep together, and then you slot in your Chris Longs, you slot in your Nick Foles as your backup quarterback if you want. So I think they've got a good young core, and I think they're going to grow really well together. Give me plus 400, plus 500 range. I will step off.
You're giving plus 400 while mentioning draft capital as an asset?
You trade that draft capital if you have to, depending on how things go. Yes, sir, I do.
Co-counsel?
Get your mans.
I love that we're just at this point where it's just co-counsel. So I think this is very well done at this point. I'm going to say this. I'm going to put the Eagles at a cool plus 950 for a 5-year championship window.
It's a little better.
I will say this. I think that what makes the Eagles a very intriguing long-term bet for something like this, in this world that we live in, is that the fact that they have that option for essentially 2 different rookie quarterback contracts to win this title on, right? This hypothetical 5-year window title. Because the thing is that they have a rookie quarterback right now, and we all know that the current formula for the NFL is you win on your quarterback's rookie deal. You're much more likely to do so until you have to start paying them a third of your salary cap, right? So now we're at this point where the Eagles have Jalen Hurts for, the next 3 years of a rookie deal, including this year. But also
it's a 5-year deal as a second-round pick. So, 3 years. Yeah.
I thought it was 4 years as a second-round pick.
I guess 5.
Okay, I mean, even still, last year was his rookie year. They have 3 or 4 more. They have at least three more full years of them, right? So then that brings you to the really interesting thing, which is next year's 2 picks, because, kind of like recently we've seen the Dolphins do with Tua and just getting Josh Rosen out of there. Like, if you don't like the guy that you have, you can essentially reset your window with a new rookie quarterback contract. And look, obviously we know that this current class is, we're still a year or 10 months out from a draft or whatever. It's too early to know these kind of things, but the early indications that, you got Spencer Rattler at the top, then it's not really too much after that, right? So maybe if Jalen Hurts still isn't your guy in 2 years, you still have enough assets where you can go and then just reset your timer one more time in not after this year, but after the next 2022 to 23 season, if at that point you're still not convinced that your quarterback is the guy. So I think in a 5-year window, you can have 2 different quarterback chances with 2 different rookie deals to give you flexibility to bring in, great supporting pieces around him. I think that the Eagles are, they're obviously not close to it, but in a situation, a scenario like that, I think that, they're certainly would be a good bang for their buck at plus 950.
It's closer to where I would go. Prosecution, what are we setting these odds at?
Again, I have to bring y'all back down to earth. Max, you're a little closer. Josh, you're so far head in the clouds. Like my goodness. I'm setting the Eagles championship odds in this 5-year window at a nice 1150. I'm going into
making a lot of money.
The 4 digits, because what did I start this show with? Remember that you are in a rebuild. Not only are you in the first year of it, gentlemen. And normally NFL rebuilds don't turn around and just overnight like that. Normally, we're looking at a 3 to 4 to 5 year project. If everything hits exactly as it's supposed to, and we lined the question marks out, we lined the doubts and where this team could fall short and where their expectations are. So remembering all of that all we just said for the last hour, we know that the Eagles winning a Super Bowl anytime in the near future is a long shot. Not that it's impossible, but it's a long shot. A lot has to be done for it to happen. I'm setting my odds at 1150. If I had to put my money on it, 1150 for it to happen. And that's with not being a Nick Sirianni believer. That's with not being all in Jalen Hurts. That's with not seeing depth and critical pieces on the Eagles. That's everything that I've said is going into this. There shouldn't be a shock as to where I fall with the Eagles.
He's trying to win you guys a lot of money. I would like to make a note of that. I feel like a lot of people forget what the actual time frame for a rebuild should be. Like, we're not talking about the rebuilds have too often gotten compared to or likened to like the Baltimore Orioles or the New York Jets, where it's like an extended period of time.
No, that's when you're just inept.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the timeline of the term rebuild needs to be refreshed into like a 3 to 5 at the worst case scenario, where it's like you're rebuilding, retooling, and successfully doing it, hitting on these picks. So I think
and by
that's
year
nice,
5,
refreshing realism.
By year 5, you should be that one piece away, that one step
that's
away.
fair.
If you get to 4 and 5, and if there's like no improvement, then it's
you don't make it to year 5 unless you're unless you're there.
Yeah,
unless you're a top
year 3
unless you're a top 8 to
straddle,
10 team, you're not getting to year 5 as a head coach.
I agree.
Before we jump into our second half here, gentlemen, and get to our ruling, we got to tell you about our friends over at PHL Sports Nation. They do a great job of covering all your Philadelphia sports teams, whether it be blogs, social media, anything in between. Go check them out, phlsportsnation.com. Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience. Brought us some great guests, Mr. Joliker. I'm going to say it every time. Let's see, Jeremy, Brandon Apter, always amazing. We're going to try and get somebody to cover the Eagles a little bit, to jump on with us soon as training camp starts to wrap up and preseason approaches. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to breeze through the second half here, gentlemen. So we get to this ruling. Something, nothing, or everything. You know how to do it. Zach Ertz being at training camp. Okay? Zach Ertz being at training camp. Something, nothing, or everything. Anybody?
I was waiting for you to go to somebody.
No, I wanted to throw that out to the gallery. I wanted to see who wanted to jump on that.
It's quick for me. It's nothing for me. I mean, he's playing it more cordial, more professional than a lot of players would, who probably would just hold out of camp if they're not getting their way. But I mean, Zach Ertz being there does not change my stance. I don't think he will. I don't think he'll play as an Eagle, but if he does, I don't think he lasts long at all before he's wearing a different jersey. So he can come in with different hair all he wants. Different hair, same Ertz, same situation. I think he's going.
Different hair, same Ertz.
I think it's a big. I think it's a big hunk of something. I just think it's a horrible optics. It's bad for optics, and then it's also just shows ineptness from Howie here. I think Howie had a tremendous offseason to like quiet a bunch of us haters, but I think this is like a terrible look. He's doing absolutely nothing to work with the team. He's hiding the Eagles logo. Like it feels like you have an enemy. He's behind enemy lines almost. Like in his mind, he's on a different team, and he's just taking advantage of the NovaCare real estate. Like I think it's a horrible look and just bad for the young guys. Like, oh, he's acting this way. Like, obviously they know what the deal is, but it's something. It's not.
He could have not come to camp. He could have not come to camp at all.
We also don't know how he is in the meeting rooms. Like,
sure, that's a good point. But I'm saying I'd rather him not come to camp. Like, I think it's just a really bad look.
I think you're tripping if you say that, because I think that you're right that it's something, but it's something for the fact because this can't lower his trade value anymore. If he's sitting at home rotting through the first couple of weeks of training camp, like, sure, it's marginal between a 7th round and a 6th round pick, but anything else.
You're desperate. Teams know you're desperate if he's not coming to camp. Like you lose value that way. Come on.
Do you really want next year's 7th round pick that's a conditional 6, or do you want next year's 5th round pick that's a conditional 4th?
Good point.
That's really what it comes down to.
I'd rather have Ertz happy and not here. And
but he's not. That part is over. He's not happy. That part is over.
All right, boys. Last question here before we get to our ruling. The man in Indy. The man wearing number 2 in Indy. Max, I'm coming to you first, baby. Something, nothing, or everything.
This makes me smile.
It's obvious. It's obviously something because this has direct impact on Eagles' future assets, right? All I'm going to say on the subject is not going to take a victory lap. That would be far, far underneath my level of class to take a full victory lap. But I will take a half victory lap by saying it's really nice to not have to worry about this any deeper than the surface level.
All right. Co-counsel?
It's a big something, and I would call it everything had that injury window say 8 to 12 weeks instead of 5 to 12, which seems like a crazy window to me, by the way, 5 to 12 weeks. But what the 5 to 12 weeks says is, hey, there's a chance this guy is back week 1 or week 2, and the Eagles get a 3rd first-round pick. I'm not counting on it, but I'm just saying it's a big thing of something for everything Max said, and don't give up on the 3rd pick. Just everyone, let's root for Wentz to get healthy one last time, everyone. That's it.
Prosecution?
I'm going to go it's everything. And I'm going to go it's everything from a reason probably you guys aren't even thinking about. Okay. To me, screw the draft pick. Two first-round picks or 3 first-round picks. At this point, screw the draft pick. It's everything because
you're vindicated.
The roller coaster ride that is Carson Wentz is no longer something that you guys have to worry about. Just get it off of your table. Mr. Glass himself no longer resides in Philadelphia. That's Indianapolis's problem now. And it just kind of continues and furthers the point that maybe that Carson Wentz, that flash that we saw in 2017, it's just the farther we go on, the less likely it looks that we'll ever see that again. And this is the latest installment. And for the first time in his career, it doesn't affect you, or it doesn't affect y'all on the field. It affects y'all in the draft room, but after next season, it literally won't be your problem anymore. And that's the only thing that Carson Wentz holds over you is that draft pick. So forget about the draft pick, and we got 2 other ones in the first round.
Hey, man, I'll say this. A guy who might end up missing the first anywhere from 1 to 7 games of the season, even getting a second-round pick for that is
probably second at that because the Colts will probably be bad.
Yep. That's why I'd like to submit Exhibit B to the record that Dave Zangaro actually did a very good job. He rough ballpark of the numbers. He could miss up to, I think, week 3, I think he said, where you'd still be in the ballpark of making the 70% of snaps. And then if they get on that winning record, I'm sorry, we'll 75 and it automatically converts, or 70% and make playoffs. So you could ballpark miss like into week 3, maybe week 4, and still grab 70% of snaps and make the playoffs.
Just imagine if Jacob Eason starts out 2-0. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
No, that'd be bad.
Hey,
we want the Colts to finish 9-8 and get in on tiebreakers.
I'd honestly rather see Carson. I'm sorry, this sounds evil. I'd rather see him go through it again than get the first round pick. It should be too entertaining.
All right.
Don't need to convince me of that, honestly.
All right. We're going to get to our ruling here. And the question that is now being posed to our jury. How do you, the jury of the peers of the Philadelphia Eagles, find the defendant in the matter of having a clear direction for the franchise?
Okay.
And feel free to submit your rulings in any order you choose.
I feel like the defense in nature goes second, so I as the prosecution will go first.
How do you find?
I find them, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get this right because they kind of both could go either way, but I find them not guilty of having a clear direction. I'm trying to say they don't have a clear direction. So guilty of not having a clear direction. I'll put it that way. Guilty of not having.
I was so hopeful for a second.
Yeah, not having a clear direction. Nick Sirianni was not brought in for Jalen Hurts. He was brought in for Carson Wentz to convince Carson Wentz to stay, to put the offensive design around him that would see Carson Wentz flourish, not Jalen Hurts. With all that being said, not having a clear direction is where the Eagles fall. 6-11, my friends. 7-9. Get used to it. Get happy with it. Get content with it. Year one of rebuild.
How do the people find the Philadelphia Eagles? Josh, Max,
this it's just a lot.
Shake
it's a lot, man.
Baby.
I really, really like the official what's the word? The charge, the official charge. That's what I'm looking for here, because it does change how I view the whole thing. And listen,
Mr. Plus 400 at a Super Bowl run.
Just gonna call a spade and say the Eagles or Howie Roseman specifically is guilty of not having a clear direction, because for one reason and one reason only, to be honest, quarterback. If you don't believe in your quarterback, you don't have a clear direction. And I think I have a direction of their rebuilding, but I think my direction or my conception is different than the Eagles because they don't believe in Jalen Hurts, right? There's all this talk about Deshaun Watson, and they never wanted Jalen Hurts to be the quarterback, right? Like he was supposed to be a backup. So if we're going on this charge, I will say that the Eagles are guilty of not having a clear direction. That being said, because I think this season is a pivot. It is not necessarily this is what we want to do. This is their pivot, and now they're trying to see what they have. I've happened to fall into the camp that they fell into something really nice in Jalen Hurts, and then trading down to get Devontae Smith. I'm saying 10-7. I'm saying NFC East winners, and it will kickstart a new direction. But where we sit today, I think they're guilty of not having a direction. I'm just being honest, but I still say 10-7 in playoffs.
Wow, co-counsel?
That's a lot of faith.
And a team with no direction. A lot of faith in a team that he clearly stated has no direction.
Howie Roseman may not have direction, but that core of guys, I believe in them.
I kind of do agree with Josh's statement as a blanket statement because I agree that the Eagles maybe, as in the Eagles as in the front office, maybe doesn't have the best idea of what they want to do, but this is going to seem contradictory to what I said about not believing in Nick Sirianni. I don't believe in him as the guy who's going to be the head coach for like a great team, but I do believe that he knows what he is looking for in terms of players and what he's looking for in terms of I guess just even simple. He knows what he's looking for, but I feel like the front office doesn't, and obviously that's going to create a disconnect of sorts. Obviously. Not again, right? That's really what scares me here. So, before this last season, Carson Wentz's last season, I would 100% would have claimed this team guilty of not having direction because they were very clearly split of two minds. Like half the roster screamed, "This can't work in a competitive week-to-week environment," and the other half was, "We still have some Super Bowl magic left in us somewhere," right? Like that's what their thought process was. I'm not saying I agree with it. But it feels like this year there is an acceptance of we are probably going to suck for the first time in a while, like truly not be good. Like the year that was Doug and Carson's rookie year together, like it feels like that, but to a lower degree because last year was just a dumpster fire. It wasn't like we came off the last year of Chip Kelly where we still finished 7-9 and you could tell the players just quit, but there was still talent and there was still like, damn, if anybody else was coaching that team, they probably could have just walked the division at 10 wins that year. And that feeling isn't there this year, not even close. So I think that I'm going to have to say that they're not guilty of not having a direction because I think that they actually have accepted that they suck. And I think the front office doesn't know how to accept that or how to where they go from that acceptance. Like they've never had to accept they suck. The biggest suck years in recent Eagles lore is the Dream Team year, and to a lesser extent, the Carson Wentz rookie year. And obviously, nobody expected a team that got dubbed the Dream Team by their backup QB to stink as bad as they did. Mm-hmm. So it just feels like it's been a while since this city and therefore the ownership and the people making the big decisions have had to prepare for the mindset of, hey, we're not going to be competitive this year unless a lot of weird things happen, as opposed to last year where we're going to be competitive this year unless a lot of weird things happen.
If the direction is we suck, then I can get on board with the Eagles having a clear direction. Then,
I mean, I think that they have accepted that they need at least this year to figure shit out. Like very clearly, like I don't think it's any secret that this is the Jalen Hurts prove it year. Like either he shows that he can be good enough to win this division and compete in the playoffs consistently, or the Eagles are burning one of those two picks next year for a quarterback. There really doesn't feel like there's any two other timelines or any other timelines besides those two. So better way to put it.
Well, the defense rests, and the Eagles have been found guilty,
of course,
of not having a clear direction for the franchise. Now, I think there's in the judge's notes, let it be noted that some good points were made, and the coaching staff seems to have a very clear direction of what they want, but the GM does not. And at least at the position of quarterback, and if you don't know what you're doing there's going to be a disconnect.
Doesn't matter anywhere else.
Yes, sir.
If there's a disconnect there, There cannot be a clear direction for the franchise. We'll
wrote.
see if those things change, Josh. If your prediction for the blueprint pans out, the choice might be made for them. In all honesty, but
that's what I'm banking on.
The case has been made, the team has been tried, and they have been found guilty and not wanting.
They're going to be going to the jail in Veterans Stadium for the
They
next
have been
until they make the
sentenced.
playoffs.
They have been sentenced to another 15 years in the dreary NFC East.
NFC Beast, don't you forget it.
15 years.
It's a pretty damn good sentencing.
Best division in sports sometimes.
Possibility for parole in 5. So we never know. You never know. Boys, let's tap it out. Well, I'll go first. I don't really have a tap out. I wanted to drop a little news on you guys that have come up while we've been doing this. Dwight Howard has re-signed with the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
Don't say re-sign. I was about to bitch and moan about how I mean watch him in the playoffs again.
With the Los Angeles Lakers and the Sixers have re-signed Furkan Korkmaz.
Yes.
Dude, great contract too. Say it, Banners. I know you saw what it was.
I kind of just swiped away the notification as soon as I saw it.
3 years, 15 for Furkan, which is a great. It's an amazing contract.
Yeah, got him on the cheap. Actually,
that's really good. The Lakers are also interested in Danny Green, while Danny Green is interested in the Miami Heat. NBA free agency, fellas.
Yeah, let's do it.
Crazy.
Anybody got to tap out?
I'll piggyback off yours, Banners, because mine is also NBA free agency. Gentlemen, for the first time in about 3 years, Chris Paul has a long-term destination, and it's the same team that he was on last year, the Phoenix Suns, who made the NBA Finals run. So, looks like I will be setting up shop in the desert for the next 4 years, and it feels good because we've been journeymen these last couple of years. Didn't really know which team I was going to hitch my wagon to for an extended period of time, saying go Rockets and thunder up, and then all of a sudden go into the valley in a 3-year span. Makes a man wonder where his destiny lies. But it seems in the desert down there towards the border in the Southwest that we have made a home. I do think the Phoenix Suns are still one semi-big piece away from doing something. DeMar DeRozan signing maybe could put this team where it needs to be.
There's a Karl Anthony Towns rumor out there.
Yeah, who knows? I will take that. But for what it's worth, I think Phoenix is a good fit. I think Devin Booker is a good star for Chris Paul to work with and work alongside. And him and Monty Williams work really well there as a pairing. Rally the Valley, boys.
Rally the Valley.
Rally the Valley.
All right. Co-counsels, any tap outs?
I got one really quick. And I got to say that somehow throughout the flow of the show, I didn't really have the opportunity to make this statement abundantly clear. I am a believer in Jalen Hurts as of this moment in time. As a historical doubter, I saw him in college plenty, and to me, he was just always a guy that he was a good college quarterback, and I would never had any major confidence that he would pan out to the NFL. And maybe my initial gut instinct is correct, but after everything that I keep reading and seeing, and I'm really trying not to drink the Kool-Aid too heavily, but to at least not give myself the mental reassurance of backing this guy, knowing the kind of work that he's putting in terms of mastering the offense, seeing all the tweets and the clips about the throws that he's making to people, knowing the fact that he's lifting with his offensive lineman and is, quote, running the room in there. That can't help but to excite me as a fan. And I get that there is no reason for people outside of the Philadelphia fan base to believe in this kid as much as I do and clearly as much as Josh does. But after a long couple of years of just never really being convinced, if it's not going to be now, it's going to be never. And this kid is my quarterback. He's my QB1 on the first day of training camp. I want him to succeed. I'm pulling for Jalen Hurts all in this year.
Yes.
And low-key fantasy advice, like he could easily snip top 10 fantasy QBs if you're looking for someone to fly in the double-digit rounds.
Lots of rushing yards and touchdowns for that matter. Welcome to the Hurt Locker, digits. It's pretty good.
It's actually pretty good.
We're going to have to get shirts, Josh. We're going to have to get matching Hurt Locker shirts.
Yep. And on the note of the Hurt Locker in the cinema world, I got a quick tap out, real simple. I saw a movie recently, and I watched a show that released its second season. And we'll go with the bad first. I saw M. Night's Old, big M. Night guy, big movie guy, and
not this one.
It really sucked. M. Night, it's
concept looks tough.
I had to go see it. You know what I mean? I like M. Night has proven me wrong before, and he's proven me right before. And this one, I was like, oh, okay, this looks good. I'm gonna see what he does with it. It's horrible. It's horrible.
That's tough.
And the other one is, I think you should leave with Tim Robinson. It is just friggin' hilarious. Like, it came out season 1 a few years ago. It's like 15-minute skits, and I kind of just forgot about it. You know what I mean? Second season comes around. Oh, it's gold. It's crude. It's quick, and it's just like it's like a modern day Saturday Night Live in the sense where it's a little bit more crazy and out there, and Saturday Night Live has just come a little bit more cookie cutter political insert laugh track here. So that is my recommendation if you want something crazy funny. And my
your anti-recommendation.
Yeah, don't see it, right?
Just stay away.
I'm gonna do it.
Forewarning.
All right, that's going to conclude our series of trials on the Philadelphia sports teams. If you've missed any of them, if you weren't able to join us here live while we were deliberating, go back and watch or listen. There's you can find any of them on our My New Philly Facebook over YouTube page, and as well as in any kind of podcast form, whether it be Spotify, Anchor, Apple Music, anywhere in between. For everybody here, Trust the Process Live. We'll catch you next week. And as always, we are brought to you by My New Philly, where something's always new and everything's always Philly. Catch you next week, Philly. And enjoy training camp.
Peace.
The trials have concluded.
Oh, here we go. One last one.
Done.